Hey, Nathan here with CBI Off-Road in Prinsu. Today we're here to show you about my favorite CBI build, which is our 2021 ZR2 Colorado with the diesel motor. Let's check it out. All right, we're gonna start on the front end of this truck. One of my favorite things about this truck is the diesel motor. The small Duramax that they put in this truck, it's not huge by any means, so it's not like you're gonna be pulling a ton of weight. Although we pulled a 16-foot enclosed trailer with our 4-seater Can-Am in it, and it did great. And we also got good gas mileage. But really, that's the thing I love about this diesel motor, is just driving it around town. It has enough low-end torque that I get really good fuel mileage. We recently were at the Sand Sport show in Costa Mesa, California, and I drove this behind our truck, our big truck and trailer. We were going about 70 to 75 miles an hour with 35-inch tires, and I averaged 22.3 miles to the gallon, which blew me away. That was, 900 miles of driving, averaging that miles per gallon. The other thing that I noticed is on the way home, we're going uphill, climbing from sea level up to Utah, Idaho elevation. And I also had a really strong headwind. I mean, it was blowing like crazy. And I was going faster because I wasn't following our truck. And I still averaged 16.9 miles to the gallon, which again, totally blew me away. I love our Toyotas, but never once have I got even close to that on miles per gallon on any of the Toyota vehicles. So that diesel motor makes a huge difference. And again, even with 35-inch tires, fully loaded like we are now, this thing's basically a brick running down the road. So it kills it. The other thing that's really awesome is the diesel motor on the trail. You have that low-end torque. And again, some people say the diesel motor's heavier, and it probably is. I don't know what the exact weight specs are, but I appreciate that low-end torque and definitely would recommend the diesel motor. The other thing I like about this 2021 is the new front end. They changed the front end. The grill's much more aggressive with the pronounced Chevy logo written out across the front, and I much prefer that look. I think it's way more aggressive and racy looking. Of course, we put on our Covert bumper, which I honestly love the Covert bumper. I think the Covert bumper is a great way to go. It saves you weight. It's still because it is so small. Mounts just like our full front bumpers, so you get full capacity out of the recovery points as well as the winch point as well. Mounts directly to the end of the frame rail, and it's really quite simple to cut. There's body lines that we follow on both sides, which make it very simple. It's important to note that the bumper does come with the integrated D-ring tabs for recovery, and we do recommend these for recovery situations, as well as the winch, of course. We're running a worn ZR, or what is it called now? They changed this, the ZR, no, what'd they call it? The VR Evo. They changed the name of it. So it's the VR Evo 12,000 with the synthetic rope. That's what we're running in this truck, and it's perfect. With the synthetic rope, you get the lightweight, functionality of a strong winch, so I really like that. The other thing that's cool is we have our brand new CNC milled fairlead. And this thing's pretty cool. I mean, a fairlead's a fairlead, right? You can't get too crazy with them. But we put a special Teflon anodizing on these fairleads, which allows the rope to slide over it easier, and it provides less friction, and it's also more durable. So if you're winching a lot in and out, it's gonna protect that fairlead and protect the coating as well. And of course, we got the Factor 55 flat link, which I love. I think it's a great option. It's a safe way to winch, and they just look cool, way better than a winch hook. So I would definitely recommend that. The other thing to mention about our Covert bumper is this opening right here is a dual purpose opening. So we've designed this opening to, be aesthetically pleasing to the front of the vehicle, but it also can be used as a light bar mount. So if you wanted, you can run a 30-inch single row straight or curved light bar in this bumper. It's totally hidden behind the face of the bumper. Nobody's gonna unbolt it and run off with it and steal it from you. And it's protected. So I really like that setup, and we actually plan on running a 30-inch curved light bar in here. Sometime in the future we'll get that put on. And then of course this bumper has the short grill guard, which again kind of gives it a Baja racy look, which I really like. I think it looks fabulous with the front end. The other thing that's important to mention on this truck is our full aluminum skid plate. So we've designed this skid plate similar to the factory skid plate, in that it will integrate with the factory bumper as well as our aftermarket Covert bumper. The other thing that I think is important to note about this skid plate, this one in particular is all aluminum. So it's 1/4 inch aluminum, and it's fully gusseted throughout the skid plate. So if you're hitting out here on the wings, you're gonna be protected. If you're hitting right in the center, you're gonna be protected. If you're hitting on the far sides, you know, passenger or driver, you're gonna be protected, and then fully down the middle in the back. It's fully supported. Even in the aluminum scenario, it's gonna hold up. If you do want the best protection, then of course you can go with a steel skid plate, and it's 3/16 carbon steel is what we use for that skid plate. And it is gusseted and reinforced in the exact same way. So that's the front of the Colorado. You know, one thing that I wish they would have changed is I wish they would have put some LED headlights in this truck. They're halogen, and you know, they work pretty good, honestly. They're not horrible. But you know, it's just that color of light. I wish it was a little brighter. I wish it had a little more spread than the old halogen style. So that's something that we're gonna look to replace here soon. So if you have any ideas, comment below and let us know what you think we should put in as far as headlights. The other thing that I would mention is there's no fog lights. You know, you look at both of these spots on the front, and the standard truck, the Z71, has fog lights in it. The ZR2 does not. So, you know, that may or may not be something that's a deal breaker for some people. For us, it's not that big a deal. Our full front bumper does incorporate fog lights, so if you want that, you can bypass the Covert, go straight to a full bumper and get your fog light mounts. All right, so let's talk about one of my favorite things about this truck, and that is these tires. Not so much the brand. These are Falcon Wild Peak AT3s, which I really like. I think they're a great tire that hits a great price point. We've run them on several of our vehicles, including some of our 1/2 ton and 3/4 ton trucks, and they've held up really well. So I'm impressed with the tire, but more so than the brand or the style of tire, I love that it's a 35-inch tire. Now, how did we do that on this ZR2? It's a little more difficult to do if you don't change the fender flares. So you'd have to go with a bigger lift, do a lot more trimming. But what we decided to do is go with the AEV fender flares, which do require cutting. So you actually cut 1.5 to 2 inches of the body panel around this fender out, and then the fender flare installs directly to the body. What I really think is cool about these fender flares is every one of these bolts is a true mounting point. It's not stuck on with tape like some of the other brands. It's not flimsy. I mean, you can see I'm grabbing this thing and it is not moving, you know? That's what I really like about this fender flare, is it is solid. Plus it gives you the extra clearance to fit a 35-inch tire. Now, depending on offset of wheels and things like that, you may still get a little rubbing up front. So you can adjust the inner wheel well plastic piece right there as far as how you trim it. But that's one of my favorite things about this truck. We're running pretty close to a 3-inch lift with the 35-inch tires, which to me just gives it a super burly, tough stance. And I really like that. We're running a 17-inch wheel. This is a new wheel from Icon. We decided to try it. It's kind of, I don't know, I think it's kind of military looking, which we love the Icon alloys. As far as suspension goes, we're running the Peak Suspension Coilover Kit. So this kit retains the factory Multimatic shocks, front and rear, gives you the coilover adjustment on the front, plus we're running their upper control arm. We've run this setup or a similar setup from Peak Suspension on both of our ZR2s that we've had, and we really like it. It helps support the front end weight if you're going to run a full bumper, especially in still with a winch. So it does a great job supporting that weight, and you still get the functionality out of the Multimatic shocks. And you know, at first I wasn't too hip on the Multimatic shocks because we couldn't change them out. You know, we wanted to go with a whole new shock, and it's a little difficult because of how they mount, but I really like this setup. I think it's a great way to go. Peak Suspension has done a great job with their setup on the front end, so I'd highly recommend it if you have a ZR2. It's a great way to set up the front end and make it reliable. Short of that, the only thing else that I would mention is there is also, with these fender flares, there is a little trimming on the back of the wheel well, and it's very minor, but once you have that done, these babies are solid. All right, let's go to the top of the vehicle and let's talk about the Prinsu rack. I'm hanging out here off of our new Summit handles, and I want to tell you all about this rack because I think there's a lot of really cool things with it. First and foremost, a roof rack brings a ton of functionality to an off-road overland vehicle. Gives you the ability to carry lots of different accessories, and I think that's one of the biggest points in why people need a roof rack on their vehicle. I also personally think that it makes the truck look a little meaner and a little more racy. I mention that a lot. I kind of like a racy looking truck. But let's talk about it here. So right off the front, with every Prinsu rack, you have the ability to choose your wind deflector option. So on the Colorado, you can run up to a 40-inch light bar. We're going with the Heretic 6 Series light bar, which we really like. It's a great low-profile light bar. Puts out a ton of light. I mean, it just blows you away how awesome this light is. And it fits really sleek in with the rack. We actually have our light bar mounting brackets that we've developed. And the point of these is most light bars come with brackets to mount, you know, onto a vehicle in a bumper or a roof rack or whatever it may be. But those brackets don't allow you, in most cases, to position the light right where it needs to be, so it's a little more low profile looking. I think it's important that that light kind of hugs down to the roof and the rack, just so it doesn't look like it's sticking out and like it's an antenna or something off the top of your vehicle. So that's a good option if you want some lights up top to go with the light bar cutout. If not, you can go with our standard wind deflector, which is going to cut right across the top there and just fill in that space. I think it's important to mention at this point that we really have engineered this rack and the wind deflector in a way to push the wind from an aerodynamic standpoint over the vehicle. And it does a couple things. If you look at this rack, we've got rotopacks mounted in 2 boxes, so they're pretty bulky. This wind deflector the wind's gonna come right off the windshield here, hit the wind deflector, and it's gonna push it up, which will help it clear everything that's on the rack to make it quieter and less wind resistance. And it also helps the wind flow back over the rooftop tent or anything that's on the back side. So those are a couple cool things, maybe some kind of new information that you didn't know about the Prinsu rack. It's also important to mention that this rack has 5 mounting points on it, and it does not have factory mounting holes like the Tacoma, for example. So you do have to drill into this strip in these mounting points to mount the roof rack. That can be pretty intimidating. We recommend, if you are intimidated with drilling into your roof, just having a professional install the rack. There's plenty of shops out there that can do it easy enough. Otherwise, if you want to tackle it yourself, what I recommend is just take it easy, don't be in a rush. Set the rack up, put it together, put it on the roof, position it right where you want it, and then go ahead and start drilling. Using a step drill bit will make a big difference in cutting lubrication as well, since this is hardened steel in here, and how they form that roof panel, there's multiple layers because it's a structural component to the vehicle. But just keep that in mind, and it's really quite simple to do. We have great instructions on this rack as well, so that'll definitely help you out, and our team's available. So if you want to give them a call, they can walk you through it. Let's talk about the Summit handles now. So these Summit handles are a brand new product. Again, they're CNC machined aluminum. They bolt right on to the side of the crossbar. They're super aerodynamic. I mean, whisper quiet. These do not add any sort of noise or anything like that when you put them on the side of your roof rack. Plus they've got the Prinsu logo in them that's machined right in. So I think the handles, you know, not only are they strong, as you can see, they are awesome looking. So get yourself some handles. As far as accessories, we mounted the Rotopacks, water and fuel, which I typically like to personally carry at least one thing for water and one for fuel. And then we have the two new Pelican cases. Both of these items mount really easy. So we have our Rotopack mount that's set up for the Prinsu rack here. And then Pelican has their own mounting brackets on the boxes. And again, they bolt right to the roof rack. They're simple and easy to use, and it is a great place to carry some lightweight storage items. I typically like to put like my cooking utensils, clothing and apparel, even a sleeping bag, lightweight stuff like that is what I prefer to put in here. The last thing that I'll mention on this roof rack is it doesn't interfere with your antenna on the back of the vehicle. So just keep that in mind. I know that's a question we get a lot, but it's totally clear of the roof rack or the antenna on the back, and it'll mount right up. I see that I missed right in the middle too. We have our MaxTrax mounts. So you can mount MaxTrax obviously really easy on the Prinsu rack. Again, we're using our mounting brackets to do that. We felt like in the middle was a great place to put those, as we try not to use them any more than we have to, but they're pretty simple to get to and they come right off. So Prinsu rack's probably one of my favorite things. Super low profile, whisper quiet, and you can carry all your gear. All right, let's move to the side of the truck. So what we want to talk about now is our side steps. These side steps bolt on just like the factory rock sliders do. We do not recommend these side steps for full vehicle weight. So just kind of like the factory rock sliders, you don't want to drop off something and have a big, you know, impact on them. But that being said, they are made out of light gauge steel, and we have put in some specific structuring and bending to make these things quite strong. In our Tacoma, actually, you know how it is. You get out on the trail and accidents happen. You get yourself in a position that you probably wished you weren't in. Anyways, on our Tacoma, I actually landed on them quite hard. And I was a little worried. I was afraid I was gonna open the door and that rocker panel was gonna be dented in, but these steps held up. I mean, they are stronger than you would think, especially where they're not a true rock slider. What I really like about the steps, however, is I like the platform to step on, you know, get to the roof rack or bed rack or whatever it may be. The platform is plenty big. We've got grip built in, so your feet don't slide. And the other thing I really like about these steps, they're super lightweight. So it's a great option, you know, if you're getting up on your rack or whatever, and it protects even the rocker panels from rocks flinging off the tires. So I like that side of it. This truck with the 35s, again, we have a lot of clearance. So everywhere we've been so far, we haven't come close to hitting those. I'm sure we'll get it there though, one of these days. Okay, let's go to the back. We have, of course, our CVT tent. We've used this quite a bit this year. We spent a week in Colorado sleeping out of it and really enjoyed it. They make a great tent. I would highly recommend them to anybody that's looking for a rooftop tent. As far as the bed bars go, let's talk about these for a little bit. So I've run our bed racks, both cab height and roof rack height bed rack. I've run the bed bars like this as well. And depending on the situation, I really like both of them. I really like the low profile stance of the bed bars. It keeps the rooftop tent about even with the roof rack. So as far as wind resistance and aerodynamics, it's great from that perspective, and it helps with the fuel economy when you're traveling on the freeway and the highway. I like how simple they are to put on and off. I mean, they take but a few minutes. You can have a lot of versatility with them as well. So sometimes I'll mount my mountain bikes on here when I don't have my rooftop tent on. You could put a top rack on here, which we've done as well. So we mount a top rack to the top of the bed bars. So there's several configurations there. And then we also make some bike mounts that go on the side of these. So if you wanted to carry a rooftop tent with 2 bikes, then you can definitely do that. I think the one drawback to the bed bars is if you're trying to use the bed area of the truck, you're minimizing the height of the usable space. So what I found is in this Colorado, we don't have a deck system. So there's still quite a bit of space, below the tent to store gear. You can easily put in totes and lots of camping gear and things like that. But on our Tacoma, I was running bed bars on that with the deck system, and it was just too short, right? The space in between there, I mean, you could still fit a tote as long as it wasn't too big, but it minimized your capacity for gear. So I would say if you're building out your Colorado and you need maximum gear storage, definitely go with our bed rack, and probably preferably the roof rack height, because it'll give you that maximum amount of storage. We circle around to the rear. We've got our standard rear bumper. It's all steel. Again, it's important because it has the D-rings built in. So this is a great recovery point. You can use it for any type of recovery. It welds into the reinforced structure that mounts directly to the frame behind this section of the bumper. So it's really easy to mount up and totally trustworthy as a recovery point. We also put in the trailer wiring harness. So this is the factory 7-pin, 4-pin trailer wiring harness. Snaps right into the bumper right there. We have an LED license plate light, and this is a light that we actually provide with the bumper. We get on quite a few occasions, we get a question about why we don't use the factory license plate light. And there's a couple reasons. The way it snaps into the factory bumper, it won't work with thicker metal like this. It's really thin gauge metal, or plastic actually, that it snaps into. And so we provide this new LED light that will hold up and stay secure in our bumper as compared to what the factory one would be. It's also important to notice that we have a high clearance hitch built into the bumper. So the cool thing here is you actually gain, not only because of the departure angle on the bumper, but by moving the hitch up, you gain an extra 3.5 inches of clearance. Many of you know if you're running a stock bumper with receiver hitch, that's usually the area where you hit. So I think this is a great option, and it's easy to tow with still. You still got your hook points built into the bumper. The pin goes into the back, and again, your license plate's on a hinge. So super easy to deal with. Another thing to think about is on this particular truck, we've not put a dual swing arm on it. It's a great option that you can put on. We've chosen to run no swing arm on this truck, just to be different, because we haven't done that on any of our trucks for a while. But if you are running a dual swing arm back here, then you can relocate your camera. So your factory camera is in the tailgate right there. We sell a bracket that'll bolt on right above the receiver hitch here. There's a wiring port that will come through, so you can wire it into your factory wiring, and your your license plate will still fold up and clear the receiver hitch or stinger that's coming out in that location. So depending on how you want to set up your rear bumper, you've got plenty of options. We're going lean and clean on the Colorado for this setup. Okay, we're here at the back of the truck still. There's a couple things that I definitely don't want to forget back here. One of them is the exhaust. So again, this is the diesel motor, and you can see we've already bent up our exhaust tip because we've dragged it, on the rocks and the ground. That is a downside to the diesel. The exhaust does hang low. It's big, it's bulky, it kind of looks out of place. It looks a little funky back here. What our solution is going to be is we are going to put on the new MagnaFlow exhaust system when they have it out. We're going to get that bought and install it because it's going to make it a high clearance exhaust. So it's gonna tuck it up in. I haven't seen all the details yet. I imagine it's not gonna be so bulky coming out the backside here. But that's a great option and one that we wanna go with. The other thing that we've done in the past is just cut this exhaust tip off, I don't know, about 3 or 4 inches in, and cut it off at an angle. That seemed to work fine on our last truck, and is something that I think is easy for most people to do if you don't want to replace the exhaust. Another thing while we're here on the back end is I want to talk about the leaf springs and the suspension on this rear axle. So we put in the Old Man Emu Dakar leaf pack is what we did on the rear. I really like that leaf pack. I think it's plenty stiff enough to support the weight of a tent plus your gear and everything that you may or may not load up in the back of your truck. So that's usually our preferred leaf pack. It's worked fabulous on this truck. It's not too stiff, but again, it definitely holds the weight and supports it well, especially while off-roading. One thing, however, that I did notice with this truck, and I'm gonna make a little comparison with the Tacoma. And don't get me wrong, I love the Tacoma. I've had quite a few of them, and I think it's a great truck. But again, I've noticed this truck, because of the placement of the shocks, they're a little more inboard toward the differential on the rear axle. This truck seems to get more flex on the rear end. Again, when we were in Colorado with this truck and with the Tacoma, there were spots this truck just drove right through and didn't even slip a tire, and the Tacoma would slip on the rear end, you know, and lose traction. So I think that has a lot to do with the placement of the rear shocks. Again, I think this truck has an incredible amount of off-road performance, and I've been way impressed with it. I mean, to be honest with you, I really have, and I think that's part of the reason why I really love driving this truck. Okay, let's go up to the front then. One other thing that I think's cool on this truck that I would put on every one of these ZR2s, we had it on our last one, that's the snorkel. So this snorkel's made by AEV. Again, not only for water crossings and things like that is it important. It's not the only thing you're gonna need for water crossings. You're gonna wanna make sure your axles are waterproof properly and you have breathers and things like that. But it does help from a dust perspective as well. It pulls your air in from much higher. Hopefully you're getting more cleaner air up there. And again, it just looks cool. I mean, it just adds to the overall overland feel of this truck. So definitely recommend that. Again, like the fender flares, it's quite simple to install. It can be intimidating because you are cutting into the body of the vehicle, but there's plenty of room there. Even with small mess ups, you're gonna cover it. There's no worries. Definitely would recommend this. One little fact though about this snorkel's kind of cool because when you have your windows down, you can hear the motor sucking in the air because the intake's right here, and it's just awesome sounding when you're on the trail, so keep that in mind. And then finally, of course, we have our ditch light brackets. So our ditch light brackets are really simple. They bolt right to the underside of the hood hinge. I think the ditch light bracket, in my opinion, is one of the best lights to put on your off-road overland vehicle. I can't tell you how often I need lighting right here, you know, right off the A-pillar of the vehicle, 45 degrees out. I want the ground lit up. I want the trees and the bushes lit up. That's why we came up with the ditch light bracket years ago, and it is a great place to mount some lights. We have the Heretic BA2s on here, and I really like them. Again, they're low profile. When you're sitting in the seat, you can't see them really. They kind of just hide, and they put out a great amount of light. One little tip that we do on our ditch light brackets is we don't fully mount our ditch light brackets and crank down the bolts tight. There's two reasons we do that. It allows us, when we're on the trail, to aim them wherever we need to. You know, maybe I wanted it aimed out almost 90 degrees from the side. I could do that. Just hop out of my truck and aim it. I typically keep them about 45 degrees out. And then also, you know, if you want to aim it up or down, that's nice to have some flexibility. So we tighten those bolts with nylock nuts. We tighten them pretty tight, but still allow the ability to move them. That way we can adjust them on the trail if we need to. All right, so we are inside the ZR2 Colorado right now. I want to talk about the S-Pod and then a couple features on the interior that I really like. So first, we are running the S-Pod with the touchscreen. I would highly recommend to everybody to run an S-Pod setup on their vehicle. It's such a simple, easy way to run your wiring for lights, for lockers, whatever you want to connect to it. It's really the best way to do it. Plus there's safety precautions built into the S-Pod source unit that really make a difference. So keep that in mind. But if we take a quick look at this S-Pod here, we have it mounted to the dash. It's set up so it's right inside my view. You know, if I'm driving here, I've got easy access to the S-Pod here. We're only running 2 items on the S-Pod right now. So our roof light, our 40-inch light bar, and our ditch light brackets. So there's only 2 of the 8 switches that are set up and configured. You can name the switches, which is really cool. You can adjust the orientation of the switches. You can control dimming and things like that. There's tons of functionality that comes with the S-Pod. The other thing that's nice is it gives you your battery level and temp there as well. So it's kind of a nice little feature to have available. The other thing, I guess before we get to some of the electronics that I really love are the seat covers that we put in this vehicle. So we're running the Wetacoli seat covers. They're great neoprene seat covers, super comfortable. That's one thing that I really like about them. I mean, these seats are pretty comfortable. The bolstering's pretty good, but it just gives you that added little extra measure of comfort. We went with black and the orange piping just to match the truck, but again, you can set those up however you want. They take a few weeks to get, but they'll build them just the way you want. Let's talk about features on this truck. So again, one of the reasons that I really like this truck is some of the technical features that come on the ZR2. So if you take a look here on this front panel right here, you have your lockers. So there's a front and rear locker. One thing that I have noticed, again, a difference from this Chevy as compared to some of the other vehicles that I've been in, is the lockers engage almost instantaneously. I've been in other vehicles where, you know, you kind of have to put it in neutral, then put it in drive, put it in reverse, kind of rock the vehicle a little bit to get it to engage. These are instantaneous. I was on a trail on Imogene Pass in Colorado, and we were taking a little harder line, and I needed to put in my rear locker because I was losing traction. And I was on the incline, already bound up. I mean, I was right in the middle of it, and put that locker on, and it engaged immediately. I really like that about the Chevy models, and you know, whatever they're doing with their e-lockers, they work really well. It's nice that this vehicle comes with a front locker right from the factory. That's why we chose the ZR2, which I think is a huge benefit. You've already, you know, got that set up front and rear, so great thing. Another small thing that I really like is a heated steering wheel. So we're from Idaho, of course. We're just starting to get into our cold season. It's so nice to have a heated steering wheel, and I really like that Chevy has done that. Okay, the last thing I want to mention about this ZR2 Colorado is with the diesel motor, we have opted not to re-gear this truck, even though we're running 35-inch tires. To be honest, you know, when we put the tires on, I wasn't sure how the motor would react, how it would be off-roading, and you know, really what it would feel like. And I haven't felt the need to change the gearing yet. Again, highway performance has been great. Off-road performance has been great, plenty of low-end torque. So I think for now we're gonna keep the factory gearing, and again, another benefit of that diesel motor. Hopefully you've enjoyed this walk around of our 2021 ZR2 Colorado. Again, this is my favorite truck. There's so many reasons why I really like it, but you know, it's just a sweet looking truck. I love the orange color. I love the graphics on it, and I love all of the stuff that we've done to it. So I'm gonna keep driving this thing for a while. Thanks for joining us. Be sure to like and subscribe. Follow us along on our social media as well, and we look forward to more adventures.